Hey guys, welcome to this week's video, which is all about 15 psychological marketing triggers that make people want to buy from you. In this video, we'll be discussing the 15 psychological marketing triggers that us marketers use every single day to help influence and guide our customers in the direction that we want, which is for them to buy our products. Before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button for weekly content about how you can grow your business, get more sales, and find more clients. And now let's get into it. The first psychological trigger that we're going to talk about today is something called the halo effect, which is more or less a fancy way of saying the first impression that you have with a brand, a business, or an individual. Because this first interaction that you have really sets the stage for the rest of your relationship together. You want to make sure that you're starting off on the right foot. Not only is this going to influence the interactions that you have together in the future, such as your ability to sell, how much they trust you, etc., but starting off on a good foot means that later on down the road, if there is some sort of mishap, then they'll be more likely to trust you and forgive you because they have a really positive impression of you and your business and want to continue doing business with you. And while we're on the topic of first impressions, the next psychological trigger that we're going to talk about is something called the serial position effect. This effect simply states that your customers are going to remember the beginning and the end of your interaction with them far more than anything in the middle, and that's really going to set the stage for your future interactions. This means that you want to take time to sit down, introduce yourself, and really start the conversation off with a strong, clear call to action, followed by the most important piece at the end, which is going to be the last call to action, which is really going to prompt your buyer to want to buy the product that you're selling. And on the topic of creating memorable experiences, the third trigger that we're going to talk about is something called the recency effect. Basically, it states that humans put more value on things that they've seen recently, which is why a lot of strong marketing campaigns involve increasing frequency so that you're able to create more touch points with your potential clients in order to be successful. To put it simply, if there are two competitors that are competing for a certain client, chances are the client is going to go with the person that they're interacting with more, seeing more messaging from, and having clear touch points in comparison to the person that they're not really hearing from too often, just because they're going to think that because the messaging from one company is more recent, that it's more important and more valuable. And number 4 is going to be something called the mere exposure effect, which is basically stating that the more that somebody sees something and the more familiar they are with it, the more likely they're going to be to like and trust you, which is two very important things, especially if you're trying to establish a long-term relationship with your client. That's why when it comes to marketing, more is really more, especially if you're trying to increase frequency and touch points like we talked about in the last effect. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be creating completely new content for each platform all the time. I know that that can sound really overwhelming, and marketing is something that, because of the frequency, a lot of people can feel overwhelmed by. But you're more than welcome to reshare content between your platforms, or even work with some sort of automated system that can help you to continue putting out content consistently for months, weeks, and even years to come, because you want to make sure that your clients or potential clients are continuing to hear from you. And number 5 is going to be something called loss aversion, which is most easily described as FOMO, fear of missing out. People don't want to feel like they are going to miss out on something. So creating some sort of deadline or urgency or incentive for somebody to take action sooner is a really great way to help you close deals. That being said, you want to make sure that your call to action or your incentivizer is something that is real and feels authentic, because people can really smell when you're trying to push some sort of fake deadline to push them to buy. And the next effect that we're going to be talking about is something called the compromise effect, which basically encourages companies to have 3 different options when it comes to their products to help people decide to help people make their decision about purchasing your product a little bit easier. So the best idea is to have a low price, a medium price, and a high price option. Generally, there's always going to be 10 to 20% of people that decide to purchase a premium package, and around 20% that also decide to purchase the most budget-friendly option, which is why you want to make sure that you have your middle option as the thing that you want people to purchase the most, because the majority of people are going to naturally be drawn into that middle section. It's also a really good idea to label this middle option as the most popular option, but we will get into that a little bit further on in this video. Another way that companies make their middle option look more appealing is through something called anchoring, which is our 7th psychological effect. Basically, anchoring will have you place your highest price option as significantly higher than everything else that you have to sell. That means that when your clients go and start browsing around on your website, they see the significantly higher price, and then all of the other 2 packages in comparison are going to seem a lot more inexpensive, a lot more budget friendly, which is going to encourage them to purchase your middle option. And number 8 is going to be something called choice overload. So in the previous section, we talked about how it's good to give customers choices. It's nice to give them 3 options to choose from. But when we have too many choices, too many options, or how we're delivering our options is not completely clear, it can lead to choice overload, which can either lead customers to be so confused about their options that they don't end up purchasing, or even if they decide to purchase, they're left thinking about the other options so much that they have buyer's remorse. As a marketer, it's your job to completely eliminate the confusion, to make the offers as clear as possible, and to make it so that your customers can buy and feel really happy about their decision. And next on the list is going to be something called the framing effect. This is a marketing technique that I am using almost every single day and is so helpful. And I think that it's best explained using the following example. So, heaven forbid you are diagnosed with the disease and you go to 2 doctors to talk about it. One of them gives you an 80% chance of fully recovering, and the other gives you a 20% chance of not recovering at all. Now, although both of the doctors said the exact same thing, which one are you going to be more likely to work with? Make sure that when you're dealing with your customers, you're framing your offers in the most appealing way possible so that they can feel really confident in their product. And number 10 on this list is going to be something called the IKEA effect, which basically states that customers value things more when they play a part in their creation. So this means that just because your customers spent time and energy working on something, they're going to value it more than they would have otherwise. Now, the key as a marketer here is to involve your clients in as much of the process as possible, making sure to ask them for feedback, for comments, for surveys, so that they feel really involved in the process. And number 11 is something called the Pygmalion effect. The Pygmalion effect is basically a trigger where higher expectations lead to better performance and better results. When you put higher expectations on your clients and really expect them to perform well, chances are they're going to. This is why it's important to treat your clients like they're smart, capable, and have a lot to offer, because that's actually going to trigger them to do a better job, allowing both you and them to have better results. And next on this list is going to be something called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias says that as humans, as we receive information, we're already running it through some kind of filter where we can use that filter to confirm our beliefs and our values. This is why, as a marketer, it's really important for you to understand the values, beliefs, and the things that make your ideal market tick. When you have conversations with your customers, they should literally be nodding in agreement with you, because everything that you're saying is so aligned in value with them, because that will really help them like you and trust you more. And next on the list is going to be something called the Peltzman effect. The Peltzman effect is where you make your offers as risk-free as possible. People don't like doing risky behavior unless there is some sort of guarantee. So by providing something like a 90-day money-back guarantee, people can engage with your products without feeling as though there is an element of risk involved. If you're not able to offer some sort of guarantee, then it's really important for you to double down on your social proof elements like testimonials and reviews, so that people can really trust that you are a trustworthy brand. Next on the list is going to be the bandwagon effect, which is basically just when people are doing what everybody else is doing. Do you remember when you were a kid and your parents would ask you, well, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? Unfortunately, the answer is always going to be yes, and that is because we look to other people to help us make our decisions. That's why having social proof elements in your marketing campaigns, such as testimonials and reviews, is going to be such a powerful motivator for your potential clients. You want to be able to avoid objections by saying, well, I did this for somebody else, so I'm obviously going to be able to do it for you too. And just in case you're worried that your potential clients are going to realize that you are using these marketing effects on them, number 15 on this list is something called the blind spot bias, which basically guarantees that all of these marketing effects are going to be completely invisible to your potential clients because they play off of human triggers that are so deeply ingrained in our anatomy and our makeup that we don't even realize that we are being triggered. So use them, be authentic, be natural, and nobody's even going to notice. Usually you feel like you're being more salesman-y than people even recognize in you, so use them to your advantage and watch your sales start skyrocketing. So that's it for today's videos. I hope that you guys find all of these techniques so helpful. Leave a comment below telling me which technique is your favorite or which you plan to use in your next sales call, and I will see you all next week.